Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of Tamsin Has an Idea. I'm gonna have to make it an ongoing series. I get these ideas and I just want to see if I can do them. So I was going through the fiber salad bags or box of chocolate bags that I got from Kamaj Fiber Arts, which is basically dribs and drabs of all kinds of fibers. And as I was going through, I was finding some fibers that the colors just made me think of fall. So these were the ones that I plucked out and laid out together. And they remind me of fall. So I wanted to make a yarn that looked like leaves in autumn. I am so creative, poetic even. Not. So one of these is this green, and I believe it is bamboo. I'm judging from the feel of it and how, like bamboo, the little pieces cling to everything. Bamboo is like silk that way. So I decided to use this as my core, and I decided I wanted to spin beehives of these colors, like little leaves on a tree. Now, beehives I've done a couple of times, but I've never really dove into them. So the first thing we do is we grab my spinning Bible and we're going to look into the index at the back, and we are going to look up beehives, pages 224 and 226. So let's find that. Here is everything I need to know on beehives and more. And you see how that worked up? I think it's going to look really cool. I will do some studying up on beehives, and then I'll find my little card in the back of the book, and we're going to attempt to make a beehive yarn like this one here on a green background with the alternate colors like little leaves on it. I don't know if I can do this, guys, but let's find out. Come on along for the ride. All right. Sad face. There's no little card for how to spin beehive yarns. I studied, and using the book, I did spin up a few little beehives on here just to make sure I was getting the idea. So, because it's really hard to spin with a book in your lap and talk about what you're doing and focus on what you're doing. It was too much. So I did a little bit off camera. And now I will show you what I'm learning. So I tore off a strip of the bamboo green, so I'm not trying to wrestle with a whole bunch of roving. And I'm using my plying head, although apparently these are small enough I probably could have used my regular bobbin or regular head. So just spin some singles. Then when you get to where you want to add your beehive, pull off your fiber. So I have this little tail of unspun fiber. We're going to split that in half. We're going to take the color we want, so say yellow, and we'll pull a little bit off the end. So we have this little poof of fiber. Now what I've found useful is to make sure that I have just one staple length by pulling both ends and sandwiching it until my staple length is all lined up. So take the end, place it between where you've split your fiber. So we placed it between those two legs, and then we're going to spin it on from the side to secure that fiber. All right, so now it's well secured. So, well, what we're going to do is I'm going to take this fiber and start spinning it away from us. And we're going to treadle as we are twisting this fiber so that it wraps around our core. So we got about half of it done there, and you can see how it's twisted around the core. So what we're going to do is push that up to make the beehive shape. Then we're going to continue. I've got a bit of twist built up, so I'm just going to let this wrap on. Use up some of that twist in our core. Just keep twisting it away from myself and letting it wrap. I am letting the core spin a bit in my fingers. Wrap it on. And then push it up so it's nice and tight. And we get this beautiful little beehive shape. I have a little bit left, so I'm going to treadle and let that wrap around. Now, the top is secured by being sandwiched between the plies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let some of that twist out of our core so we don't get over twisted. We don't want to get in a twist. Then I'm going to take my base yarn and I'm going to wrap that around the base of that beehive to secure it, and then I will pull it down and keep spinning my single. So what we have now is a beautiful little beehive. It's a little over twisted, but not by too much. That would probably settle when I let it sit. That will probably settle most of that out. So we will get that onto the wheel and we'll spin a little bit more of our core yarn or our singles. And I want to put another one here. So I take off my fiber supply. I think now we're going to put a red one on. So I grab my red top, pinch the end, pull off a piece. Now you could spin right with that, but I want to make sure that I'm locking in my staple length. So I just do the sandwich technique, pull it apart, lay it on top, pull it apart, lay it on top, until I'm sure I have one staple length. So then we take our tip, take our singles, split it, put that in between those two legs, and then spin it from the side so it wraps around and it's well secured, and then start. And I've also built up a bit of twist too, which is helpful. I'm just going to twist this away from me. I'm spinning Z, so, or clockwise, so I'm spinning away from me. If I was spinning S or counterclockwise, I would spin it towards me so that it will wrap around that single. Okay, I'm running a twist, so I'll build up a little more. All right, and now we're going to push that up. Keep twisting. Now, next one I'm going to try not stacking the fibers, and we'll see if we get more of a thin at the top, thick at the bottom beehive, because I suspect that's how you get that particular shape. And I should just trust the experts who say it's fine to do it that way. Push that up. We got a little bit left, so we'll wrap that around the bottom. And then we just want to secure that. So the first thing I'm going to do is let that twist out of the tail. Grab my fiber supply, come in from the side, wrap that end to secure it, and then pull down and continue spinning. So you can see how my beehive is pretty even. I think to get that true thin at the top, thick at the bottom, I have to not stack the fibers. So let's try that. I'm going to spin a bit. And this time we're going to put in some orange. So I'm just going to grab the tips, pull it off. I'm not going to stack my fiber this time. Just going to take it all, grab the tips, split my yarn, put this in between, wrap it on, make sure I have it good and secure. All right, now I'm going to start twisting away from me because I'm spinning Z, I twist away. If I was spinning S, I would twist towards. All right, I'll push that up. Move your hands back up. To build up a little more twist in my core so that it wraps on. Push it up. And then wrap that tail end on. Now I'm going to let the twist out of my core so we don't get over twisted. Grab my base yarn, wrap that around to secure the end so that the coil doesn't uncoil, and then draw it down and continue spinning. So that one still turned out pretty much the same. It's pretty much an even coil. So let's try to grab a bigger chunk of fiber to wrap on and see what happens. I have done beehives in the past, not with a whole lot of luck. So I'm still experimenting with how to get the process exactly right. This time, we're going to grab a different shade of green. Let's try this one here. So I'm going to pull off the end and I'm going to set that aside for the moment so that what I've got is a nice square end. And then I'm going to pull off a chunk. I'm going to start with the tip, split my yarn, plop that in the middle, wind that on, and I'm going to build up a bit of twist here. All right, now I'm going to start spinning away from me. Oops, make sure the tail of your core doesn't get tangled up in the lock you're adding, or the chunk you're adding. Just twist it, let it wrap on, push that up, let the twist out of the middle. Now, you can probably do this a lot faster than I'm doing it, but like I said, I'm just fussing about figuring out how to do this. I think I've got a little bit too much twist into my chunk I'm adding. So I will just gently twist now. Push that up. There, now we're starting to get that beehive look. Push that up. The wrap on, push it up. Take that tail and spin it right at the base of that beehive to lock it in place. Grab our fiber, wrap around the outside, and then draw it down into our single. All right, so that one came a little loose, but if I just kind of manipulate the coils a little bit, you can see that we're starting to get that thinner at the top thicker at the bottom look. Now, this could be the fiber I'm using as well. This green is coarser, so I'm guessing it's more like a Corriedale. So it could be a longer staple, which is leading to making it harder to coil on. So we will try that technique again. I'm going to close my eyes and grab. What did I get? I got orange. All right. So let's take it from this end. Grab big chunk. It's like my kitty cat. It's a chunky boy. Grab the tip. Split our core. Pop that in. And start spinning. Get that wrapped on. And then we're going to start twisting it away from us and letting it wrap. Okay, I don't have very much twist in my core right now, so I'm going to build up the twist. You can just treadle and do this at the same time. I prefer to build up the twist and then just let this wrap on. A couple trefoils on there and then push her up. Base on. Grab our fiber supply, wrap that on to lock it in place. Now, I've got a wicked amount of twist built up here, so I'm just going to let that all run out before I make it part of the yarn. There's a little tangle in there. I'm just going to take that right out. Wrap that around the base and then down. And continue spinning. So there, that coil came out beautiful. It's thicker in the middle. It's good and cocoony. It's got good definition. I think that this orange is likely a merino. It feels like a merino. So apparently it does a really good job of making these beehives. So here's what I've got on the wheel so far. I'm going to keep doing this for a while, see if my technique and results improve. Throw on an audiobook and listen to that while I spin myself some beehive yarn. And we'll be back in a bit to see how it's going. So I've spun a little bit. Let's have a look and see what we've got. We will use the handy dandy elbow nitty knotty. I have to say I'm struggling a bit with this, but as with all things, you do have to practice. All right, there's the end. Ow! Oh, that's a good strong base we got going on there. So when I tie off like an elbow nitty knotty, it's usually only a few yards. So I just tie a knot, wrap the ends, then knot it again. So it's knotted around the strands to keep them from tangling too bad. If you have more than just a couple of wraps, you'll want to do a second one to keep it from tangling. So it's definitely overspun, which I expected. But here are the beehives. This red one right here turned out beautiful, but most of them are loose. Oh, this one turned out good too. This one came out sort of all over the place. This one's a good wrap. It's just got an interesting shape to it. This one came out a bit too loose. Then I started working with bigger chunks of fiber to see what would happen. So the red is pretty loose. I stopped using the long green one because it's too stiff. This yellow one I used a bit more fiber for and found that it doesn't work as well. So it seems to be that the key to the pretty ones, like this one, and there was another orange one that looked good, this one, is to not use too much fiber. And I just want to check on either side and see how it's not too badly over twisted either on those. So I want to use smaller chunks of fiber to make my cocoons. Oh, that one just let go. Oh, darn it all. So I didn't get it secured as good as I should have. And the orange one's sliding too. So I need to work on my securing and using slightly less fiber. And maybe not use bamboo as the core because it might be just too slick to hold them in place. So I think what I will do for my second attempt is I will use this one and this one because these are both longer staples, stiffer fiber. A little bit of both. So these are grippier. I'm going to use these now as my core, and I'll continue using these 4 colors here. These 3 are merino, I would say. This one is blended with something, I think, and that's what's giving it. It's a little more stiff. It still is soft. It's just a little more stiff than these 3 colors. But I'm going to continue using these 4 colors. I'll use these 2 as cores, and we'll go again and see how it turns out. All right, so this mess here was my first spin, and the beehives really didn't stay locked in place, which could have been partly because of the bamboo. So I switched to using a wool core, and you can see that the beehives are much better. Actually got a whole bunch of them that look good. So I've refined my technique a little bit, and I thought I'd show you what I've been doing to try to make them a little tighter. All right, so I was using some of this yellow, which is a little bit of a coarser yarn, a longer staple length, so it could be just merino, just a higher micron merino. So let's add a beehive. So pull off our fiber. I'm going to stick that to there's a Velcro pad right there. I'm going to stick that to that. I'm going to grab a little clump of orange yarn. I'll take that big long piece off. And then I have my tips here. I'm going to split my yarn. And then I'm going to put a bunch of twist into, I'm pinching it right where the split is so that the twist is stuck behind that. I'm going to put my tips through between the 2 legs of the yarn and then fold them back to your chunk of yarn. So there's the two legs. The orange yarn is through the middle of them. Then I'm going to fold it back onto this fluff. Hold on, I'm just going to put that back up on the wheel a bit. So then I'm going to grip it on the other side of that orange yarn. But I'm going to hold this fluff so that the twist can't get into it. And now I'm going to start to twist it away from me because I'm spinning Z, and let it wrap around that central core. And then push it up. Let some of the twist out. Just going to wrap. And as I'm wrapping, I'm letting it wrap onto that central core. I'm trying to come in from the side with the twisted so that it wraps around. And I don't want to get too much twist in there. Push it up. Got a little too much twist in there, so I'm going to untwist that a little bit. Down to here. Push it up. Now I've only got that little floof left. I'm going to build up some twist here because I'm running out of twist. I'm going to split the yarn tail again, push that through, and then wrap that right around there at that base of that beehive to start locking it into place. Grab my main fiber, wrap that around as well, then draft it down, and now I'm going to stop treadling and just let the twist into that core yarn so that our beehive is secure, but our yarn is not badly over twisted. Okay, I'll get a little too thick right here, so I'll just put a little bit of twist back in that, and then I will let it go onto the wheel, and that seems to be locking it in pretty darn good. I'm smoothing out my tip. Put it in between the legs, fold it over, pinch there, build up my twist, and then start spinning this bit away from me. Now, I've been tending to put too much twist into my floof for my beehive, and it just makes it impossible to do anything with it. So I have to make sure I'm going down the yarn as I'm spinning it so we get a more balanced little ploof. All these technical terms, floofs and ploofs and, you know, all that stuff. I'm going to split the yarn, put that through between them, wrap around. And you can also try using one of the legs of the center core, wrap that around, and then down. Now I've got a lot of twist built up here ahead of my fingers, so I will just draft with my main yarn and let the twist into it. Oops, that got a bit too thin. There we go. I'm telling you, I was doing this perfectly smoothly until I tried to demonstrate, and then it's like, oh no, you didn't just spend time doing this. What are you talking about? There we go. And we got a lovely little beehive that's not going nowhere. It's very secure. So I'll do one more pointy at the tip. put it between the two legs of my base fiber and fold it back on itself. Now I need to build up some twist. So we'll just treadle while holding that there. And now we're going to, as we're spinning it or rolling it, we're just moving down the main fiber so we're not building up too much twist. Coming in from the side. And just push that up. Adjust our grip, so we're working back up there. Keep turning it till we get down to the bottom and push it up again. Couple more turns. Push it up again. Tuck that between the legs of the fiber. And wrap the main fiber around the base of that to lock it in place. Add some more main fiber and keep spinning. Holy. So there you go. That's a really, really poofy beehive. That was a big chunk of floof I worked with. But it's secure. It is going to slide a little bit. There we go. But it's not going to pop off of there, that's for sure. So that's where I'm at with spinning some beehive yarn. My next trick is going to be either trying to get it more balanced so that it's not bunching up on itself, or figuring out a way to ply it for balance without ruining my little beehives, which I seem to be fairly consistently putting the same distance apart because they all lined up right there. Considering I'm not actually measuring anything at the moment, I'm pretty impressed they came that closely together. So that's what I've learned so far about making beehive yarn. Let me put them side by each. So you can see just the improvement taking a little bit of time to play with it made, and to think about things like, is the center fiber grippy enough to actually hold them, because they do work much better with a wool core. Getting the beehives more tightly wrapped and better secured so they don't unravel like this, and ending up with some lovely little beehives. And like I said, now the big challenge is going to be figuring out how to balance it a little better, because I'm so bad at balancing singles. That's why I ply everything. Now it may be that with a wash, some of that will settle down, or steam in this case, because it's textured yarn. I don't want to mash my beehives in the washing, so I'll probably steam this yarn to set it. And that might take care of some of the twist. Like this one might not be too bad, but this one for sure, setting it is not going to help that. It's way over twisted. But I am very happy that I've gotten to this point. I'm quite pleased with what I've learned, and I will keep playing around with it and see if I can't make it even better. That's all for today. Thanks for joining me, guys. If you like this, do the stuff down below because I do stuff like this all the time. Thanks for joining me, guys.